Hi everyone and welcome back to the Bitcoin Bridge. Now, honor and accountability. Do you have it? What would make you get it? What happens if you lose it? How would you risk it? Can you trade it? Can you tokenize it? We're going to be talking about all those things today with George Siosi Samuels. He's going to tell us about Honā.io. It's new. Is it a social network? A motivational tool? It's all of those things. But here's George. He's going to tell us more. So today we're going to talk about honor and accountability, which is something I feel is sadly lacking in today's world. George Siosi Samuels, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm glad to be here.
All right, well, as we can see on your screen there, we're going to talk about honor. Can you please tell me how to pronounce that properly, just in case
you're saying
I'm getting
it right.
it wrong?
You're saying it right. It's
the
interesting.
H is silent?
The actual name is from Sanskrit, and you do say Honā, but an Australian colleague of mine, he actually said it as honor because it sounded like honor. And it worked perfectly, right, for what we're trying to do with helping people achieve their goals and whatnot, and essentially have them do so in a way that they do feel a little bit more honorable in terms of, like the journey towards it. And, the Honā word itself actually means to become or something along those lines. And so we thought, hey, this is going to work great for the brand. So yeah, we do say honor.
You checked a lot of boxes.
Yep, it did.
All right. Well, I guess we should say, what is it? Because it's not open to everyone just yet. It's still in a semi-public, invite-only kind of beta testing phase.
Yes.
Tell
it
us
is in
all.
a bit of a private beta. And so what is it? It's, like with any sort of startup, you start off with a concept and then it kind of evolves over time. So when we began, it was just an accountability app and then turned into an accountability platform. And its current iteration is actually turning into an accountability marketplace. And this is the interesting part.
An accountability marketplace. All right, I'm curious.
Okay, so the reason for the accountability marketplace is because obviously with any sort of new business or platform that I work with, I always try to see what I can do with BSV, right, using the blockchain. And so if you think about Bitcoin itself, we have proof of work, these concepts already exist, but a platform like Honā actually kind of takes that to the next level, where as people are committing to their goals as part of our process and methodology, they ideally should be including proof with the things that they're committing to. And so that's the part of their proof of work. And this actually translates into the building up of trust and reputation, right? So if you think about, certificates and things that are produced, a lot of the time you can't really verify like all the work, that went towards the end result. So a lot of times people focus on the destination, whereas our platform and sort of our methodology is actually about the journey. And we actually want to help people get better with those micro actions and those micro commitments towards the bigger things. And this is where, micro payments, blockchain actually comes in and is useful, because you can actually now start to record that type of data. And in the future, we're going to make it so that people can learn from their failure as lessons, right? Because a lot of times people, and this happened to me too, with goal tracking and habit tracking apps, you get on for a little bit, you got all the motivation at the beginning, then you just kind of fall off.
Yeah.
And, so we were like, well, how can you make that sort of falling off or all of these little failures actually turn into something good? And that's what we aim to do with Honā.
Now, I remember back in my high school days, two things I had big problems with in math class and art class was never showing my backup work. Like my teachers would always complain. They say, you show us the result and the result's correct, but we want to see how you got there. We want to see the process. So, tell us a bit more about how you've incentivized that.
Yeah. So, obviously this speaks to certain types of individuals, right? This may not be for everybody. Some people are like, pretty self-motivated. They don't need to track everything that they do. But from what we're seeing right now, the users that are coming and then returning, they really enjoy the process of being witnessed, right? That's the word that we use. So these type of individuals, they are self-motivated, but they are even more motivated when they know that someone's at least watching. And so as they're putting out their commitments, it's kind of like the build in public trend that's happening right now.
Yeah.
So people they set their goals or habits that they're looking to achieve. They put a public commitment, and then all of their progress towards a thing, it just goes to sort of an activity feed that everybody in the network can see. But the thing here is you cannot create a post if it's not tied to a commitment. So this isn't just a place to post random things. Like, it's got to be focused. So you can only post an update if it's tied to a commitment. And so, yeah, this is the sort of stuff that it's kind of building up.
Yeah, I've been looking around at it the last couple of days, and I've noticed it's a little bit social networky. Is that intentional?
Yes. Yep. So because you want to have some things that are familiar, right, while introducing all these other things. So even the Bitcoin aspect, right, the things that we're looking to do from micropayments and blockchain standpoint, we've got private groups, and we're testing out in the private groups, like we call it like just hardcore blockchain mode, where, just like Twitch, right, you want everything to be micropayments based, but we're taking sort of to that next level, whereby it's not actually about paying and earning off of the likes and comments itself. We want to truly move it into the background where you don't even think about the money side, right? That it just translate into what we're thinking of calling Honā or merit points. And then that becomes a part of what you exchange or trade within the ecosystem. But yes, by design, we want it to be a little bit social network-y in terms of the feed, but there's a whole lot more that we got coming in.
So those commitments and honor points and that kind of thing, are they tokenized, or are they just within the app?
Yes, that's the idea. Actually, some of the stuff that we have been aiming to do, none of the wallet providers in BSV can do what we want it to do.
Interesting. Right? Why is that?
I was wondering this as well, because some of the stuff that we did want to do and push, some of the wallet providers have the capability, but it's not like a priority on their roadmap and these sort of things. Whereas we know if we can start getting up the user transactions, right, and just the users in general, then maybe we can push that priority on the wallets. Now, we thought about potentially, building the wallet ourselves, but we thought that would be like not so productive, right? Because there are wallet providers that exist already. But it has meant that some of the things that we wanted to do, like, we just aren't able to do right now. It's unfortunate, but I think, with a little patience, it should be okay. So I'm thinking we're looking at really within the next 6 months, we should be able to get some of these things out of the wallet providers.
If you could put out a call for them now for a priority, what you'd like them to work on next, what things would you like them to do right now? Commit to, if as it were.
Let's very simply multi-party escrow. So this is looking at the multi-sig. So what we're trying to do is when somebody makes a commitment, we want to have multiple parties, and instead of having to store the funds, right, in an address or an account, we could use a smart contracts to hold those funds or automate where those funds are going, and that's essentially all that we're looking to do. And a bit of our solution that we have in the background, of course, a little bit more complex, but in a nutshell, that's what we're looking at. So like multi-party escrow.
Okay, that sounds like a good thing. I'd like to see that too. What kind of examples can you give? Like what have people been posting there so far? I see some pretty mundane stuff, the kind of things you would see in there are other apps out there like this. Where people make a commitment, maybe they bet some money on it.
Correct.
Or you're correct in that doing things in public is a great motivator. It's it certainly motivates me, and and I think that's the reason a lot of people vlog their life. They point a camera at themselves all the time because it just keeps them on their feet. We're not really recommending that, but what sort of things have people been doing so far? I'm just looking at the feed now. I think the most, when people start out, they often do something that's really easy, right? So it might be just, taking a walk every day for 30 days. There's one user, her name is Steve, and she has these posts where she's putting these beautiful pictures of like flowers along her walk in the Netherlands, right? And, it's interesting because when they report sort of their experiences, they're finding it motivating, just the act of, putting this out publicly, right? Yeah. And again, it's because that there are others that are witnessing and, subtly engaging and what have you.
And like anybody can do this, but for whatever reason, the way that we are doing it, people are enjoying it enough to just want to keep coming back to commit to the things. And that's why we're wanting to also build, just beyond the technology, build a culture of people who actually enjoy accountability, right? Because, when we're talking about in the world, there is actually a huge issue around a lack of accountability. And
Absolutely.
if you think about it, I see it as a cultural issue. Mm-hmm. And so, you can't address all of that in one go, right? And so we're thinking, well, what if we actually just started creating our own communities, or even supporting other communities in becoming more honorable, right? Through this type of platform. And the best way to adjust culture is by looking at the behaviors. And so what is this doing? Goals and habits and things is all about like behavior. And so we're trying to create an ecosystem that is, psychologically safe, so that people can, actually enjoy the process of being accountable to themselves first, and then build that user journey so that they actually enjoy being accountable to others. And hopefully they take that on to other communities outside.
Yeah, I made a joke before about accountability and honor being lacking in today's society, but it's one of those jokes that's not really a joke, because I do feel that those things have lapsed a bit. Just perhaps it's social media, perhaps it's the internet, or it just could be modern society in general. But people don't want to admit when they messed up anymore. They're happy
exactly, and that's the point, right? Because it's that psychological safety thing, right? Mistake. So that's why we want to turn. If you look at the statistics of like goals in general, right? Like a very small percentage actually like succeed with their goals. And the large majority who fail at them then have to deal with the feelings of like, oh, I'm a failure because I didn't hit the goal. But actually, there's so much that's going on that if you're attempting to hit something, right, that often gets discarded. This is the whole point of us wanting people to enjoy the sharing the progress. Mm-hmm. And then we want to actually leverage that data and help them learn from their own failures so they can do better at setting those goals in the future.
Right. It reminds me of that line on The Simpsons where they're on the Japanese game show, and the guy says, "In America, you reward intelligence. In Japan, we punish ignorance."
So, I mean, look, that can be effective, right? And I understand there are some cultures, and if you look at Japan, right, like they actually had an honor culture. But if we look at the lessons of history of a lot of these honor cultures, on the extreme side, it leads to honor killings. So you can see that in like some extreme Islamic states in the world, right? They're like throwing stones at their wives, killing them because they didn't want to marry somebody, and that's the extreme side of like the honor. So for us, we want the honor with dignity, right? We have this sort of yin yang approach, and this came out of a group that we were running for the last 5 years called the Pack. So Honā is really just an extension of this 5-year running productivity group that we had, where we were experimenting with like group accountability. And so I think that's probably why it translates into this, and why people will come and then they stick around, they keep coming back. That's one of the things about this type of platform that I'm noticing. In terms of the ones that do keep coming back, man, they commit to long periods of time. Like one guy has like a whole year, 365 days commitment. We'll see how he goes. Commitment?
365 days is a reasonable amount of time, I think.
I mean, in terms of, I guess most people will go for the 30 days, right? That's a very common like 30-day challenge. And we're actually running a partnership campaign with Bitpost.
Right.
And so Isaac, and he's doing a 30-day blogging challenge, and people can, I think, earn like additional rewards if they actually sign up to our Honā, sign up to the challenge in Honā. So we got a group for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I see you've got lists of commitments. You've got groups. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's go with an example. Just say I haven't made any commitments yet, but just say I want to make one. I mean, I can think of infinite things I'd like to commit to, and I'm a little bit scared to start posting them. Otherwise, I'm gonna just overcommit myself and then get all stressed out. Since thanks to all the shutdowns and working full time and sitting on my butt at the desk all day, I've become a massive fat ass over the last year or two.
Yep.
And I'd like to do something about that. I'd like to get back in shape. So what would I do as a beginner on a user?
Yeah. What I've seen, like the most common one is starting with like the morning routine. So like a morning exercise or a morning stretch or something of the sort. I remember I did one for 30 days, which was the morning sun salutations. And there's a book by, what's his name? Jack Clear, called Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've read it or not.
I'm familiar with it. Yeah, I haven't actually read it.
Yeah, no. So, but it's a great book, one I've taken many lessons from. But they talk about the idea of like stacking habits, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like for myself, someone who moves around a lot, there's very few things that feel like I can keep consistent. But one thing that I have kept consistent is, of course, brushing my teeth, after waking up. So according to James Clear, if you're in an environment that's constantly changing, then stack a new habit on top of an already existing one, right? So put it very close to that other one, because it makes it just a lot easier to like remember and actually take action on it. So yeah, if it's exercise in the morning, do something simple that doesn't feel like it's too crazy, and just work your way in it. Because in Honā, what we're trying to do, and over time, is like we're actually going to help users track this, but it's really more about just keeping up momentum. It's not necessarily about like getting to the end bit. It's just like how much are you able to just keep up that momentum, and go from there.
How do people prove that they've met their commitments or achieved their goals?
So this is where accountability buddies come in. So when you invite an accountability buddy, they can approve or disapprove or reject, updates, right?
Right.
Now, yeah. So the thing about this, right? It's like one of those audit stuff, right? If somebody goes in and they decided, I don't know who would, right? But they decided to go in and see like, okay, first what the person posted and then what was actually accepted or rejected, you have evidence of like, if somebody tried to game it, well, it's there. And I don't know how far people will go, but I think that system itself is working enough in this platform that people appreciate it. Because again, it's that sort of accountability and the transparency. So we have had people who have gone in and they just put in text. They're not actually putting in any proof per se. But it gets you to think. It forces you to think about like when you do create a commitment, how can I create a commitment that's provable?
Yeah.
So that's the reason why we have that, because I think a lot of the times people, this is the art of creating good goals in general, right? Or even good habits. Yeah. Like if you can't prove it properly, or if you can't really define it properly, then is it a good goal? So that's just part of the process as well.
Yeah, it always has to be something that you can definitively check off a list. It can't be just study more about photography or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And most people aren't taught actually how to create like good goals.
That's true.
Actually, organizations still suffer from this. Like large organizations suffer from like poor goals set by managers or leaders, right? So I think the SMART principle is a good one. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but it's SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's usually a good. Yeah.
Usually a good what? Sorry.
It's usually a good starting point, when setting a goal, to think about that. Yeah. So like the measurable part can kind of come in with the proof side of things.
And I know people would say, if you're cheating, if you're not actually achieving the goals that you set for yourself, you're only cheating yourself, and that's true. But what if it was a commitment that where you don't benefit, but someone else does? Maybe you're going to do some community service or that kind of thing, where because we have a lot of fakery on social media, a lot of people living or indicating that they're living lifestyles that they're actually not, or that they're a lot wealthier than they are, giving bad advice to people when they're living in a hovel basement somewhere, acting as a motivational coach. So I guess that's where the accountability buddies come in. If you've got customers, you could get your customers to I can see how this could get very messy in a complex situation.
I mean, 100%. I think that's with the accountability buddies too. Like, we will eventually be implementing our scoring system, right?
Right.
And so that means accountability buddies can get rated. Eventually we'll probably be having coaches come in, so the coaches can be rated. Like in the coaching industry, that's actually a big issue, right?
Yeah.
A lot of coaches get like these certifications from who knows where. Like nobody really knows like some of these institutions that they get certified from. They charge their clients all this money to help them, and then they end up not doing a good job, and then there's no real accountability there, right? So they continue to be able to go on and like sell themselves, and then really the results aren't that great. So with something like this, a really good coach would be able to like prove, like, hey, this is actually like my clients are actually like tracking like what I've done for them, and you can see. And the idea is we eventually have like a scoring system, almost like a trusted badge that people could use, wherever they want.
I remember a friend of mine about 20 years ago said, I'm training to be a life coach. And I'm like, what the hell is a life coach? I'd never heard of that concept
it's a
before.
Massive industry now.
Yeah, it is. It is, yes.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many charlatans you'll find in that industry as well, because it sounds like the kind of thing that people would jump at you, and it's the qualifications you need for it are a little bit vague, and I guess it's all based on reputation. So you'll probably get a lot of people from that walk of life joining on. Do you have a big
Correct.
network of those?
A big what?
Do you have a big network of life coach friends or motivational speakers and that kind of thing?
I mean, I know a fair few. I wouldn't say that like big, because I mean, like my network is kind of very diverse. So
I bet it is.
Yeah, but I do know a fair few who are into the Tony Robbins and the Mind Valley crew and what have you.
Yeah.
And each to their own, right? Like for some people that stuff really works for them, great. But yes, there are a lot of charlatans too. But this exists across every industry. I mean, this is why like Bitcoin exists, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Bitcoin exists to provide sort of one level of accountability, and then we're just kind of leveraging that for I guess this particular group of people, when it comes to like goals and commitments.
So how would you say the Bitcoin element makes this better than other similar platforms that are out there or networks that people build?
Yeah. So what's interesting is that actually in this particular market, when I was doing my initial research on potential competitors, and there aren't too many direct competitors, which is interesting. But on the ones that we did find, there were actually complaints about how like mismanagement of funds and things.
Yeah.
Right. So they're saying like, oh, when you make a commitment and you succeed, you should get your money back automatically. Well, these companies were not actually refunding the money, and so a lot of them were like mismanaging the funds. And what we want to do is by leveraging the blockchain, one, that's a level of accountability right there. But two, this is where the sort of multi-sig escrow comes into play. We should be able to automate a lot more of these things so that there's not too much human intervention. But at the same time, there's record, right? So as an example, in these multi-sig scenarios, you have like, say, a 2 of 3 situation. You have like the main person committing. And if you think of it like a contract, right? A commitment contract. You have the person committing, you have us, and then you have maybe the accountability buddy, right? And so if you have a minimum 2 of 3, between those two, if he commits, the money goes back if he succeeds. If not, if he fails and it doesn't. But if there's a dispute between these two, the minimum 2 of 3 means that we can help to release the funds if possible. But using the smart contracts, they should be able to automate a lot of that just based on the inputs, either from the accountability buddy or ourselves. Right. And that's just a basic function.
The word personal oracle could become a thing.
Yeah, but this is an important part, right, in this sort of process.
Yeah. Right. So we've got people using it on an individual level. I think you did mention something about wanting to expand it in the future into something much bigger. Yeah. What did you have in mind?
Yep. So again, because it's accountability, one of the interesting things is that I think one of our challenges actually in the beginning has been, narrowing the niche. Like whenever you're building a startup, it's always good to have like a very specific niche. But one thing that has kind of formed very naturally is that we realized we're kind of building out a three-sided marketplace. And that three-sided marketplace includes, your general user, we'll call them the self-achievers, and who are coming in, doing their own thing, putting up their posts, great. But the next group is your coaches, right? So these come along like a user's journey where they realize that, okay, they've tried enough on their own, and they've tried an accountability buddy, but they're still needing some more help. So very naturally, you can then bring in an expert, a coach of the sort. Mm-hmm. So that means we can then start to pull in and complement the work that so many other accountability or productivity coaches are doing right now, right? So we can pull them in and say, hey, here are a whole bunch of people who are in need of your services, and actually you can use this as a way to show just how good you are. Yeah. And you can charge however much you want. We take a cut. So then you got those guys, and then the third market or the third group would be your creators, and these are the ones like your Isaacs from Bitpost. They're online course creators, and for online courses, they also have issues with completion rates. So usually very low completion rates with online courses, and so with our type of platform and our type of groups, we can actually help the same students be more accountable. Right. So the course creators often just want to focus on their courses. But we can potentially, partner with these other groups to help with the accountability side for a lot of these students. And so then you bring all three of them together, and they're all in need of accountability in some way, shape, or form. And that's where the marketplace comes in.
One thing marketers often talk about is that if people paid for something, they're more likely to actually use it. Even if it was just a couple of dollars, they're more likely to read a book that they bought for $2 than to finish a book that they got totally for free because someone offered it for free. And that's why it's always 100%. Better to demand some commitment from the consumer. Actually, I just was wondering what the question from that was. But I guess also, what kind of fee model do you have? Like, what do people pay to use it, and what can they get out of it?
Yeah, so we're experimenting because it's a three-sided marketplace. They're actually the way that we'll be making money is different for each of these groups. So for the average user, it's the freemium model, right? So they can come in for free and they only pay for, the commitment stakes, right? So per commitment. There's a stake. So what happens for that group, whenever you have a stake, and if they fail, it goes into a community pool. And we're just using that as money that we can help help other users so far. And so then we can take a percentage of that community pool each month, right? Now that's not a sustainable business model, right? Because if you think about it, it incentivizes us to make sure that people are failing constantly so that we get that money.
I'm glad you said that, yes.
Yeah. So we thought about this and we made sure that we need to be economically incentivized to not have people fail, because what is the actual mission for Honā? It's like we want to actually help people become better, right? So that wouldn't be too good for us.
True.
So then we were like, okay, the business model cannot be dependent on that. So then you look at the coaches. This is where it gets interesting, because then with the coaches, they can charge however much they want, and we take a percentage off. Right. So we've got some accountability coaches who are working, with C-suite executives, and they're in the premium bracket. And so, a percentage off of those sort of deals that we connect them with can be quite lucrative for us. And if it's an ongoing commitment with the client, then, in the agreement, we can keep that there. Now, before I forgot to mention, before the going to the coaches, the average user can actually move up maybe one level to get access to other features in the platform. And these sort of features would include unique insights over their failure data, right? So if they want to start learning more about what it is they're doing and how that's impacting their ability to set goals or commit better or whatnot, this is where they can pay for more of those features. We also have these groups, right? So this kind of relates to the creators. So that third group I was talking about with the creators, they can actually create their own, I guess, ecosystem within Honā that's tailored to their brand. So imagine, for example, like Tony Robbins, right? He wanted to have his mini challenges on Honā. He could have his own group in Honā, and in that group, they just create different challenges, each month for different people, and people can just join. So the idea is that we actually end up having almost like a Netflix library, of challenges, right? And people who actually set good challenges, if they get rated really well, they could end up selling that as a template or just as a standalone and make money off of that.
Okay.
So so you can start to see, right? Like there's actually for different parts of the triangle, there are different revenue models, and we felt that was I don't know, it just felt right for us to have it in that sort of manner, but it became a lot clearer when we understood like what each of these different segments were.
Yeah, it seems there's a lot more scope for creativity than I initially thought when I looked it up. I'm sure I sort of deliberately didn't look at it too deeply because I wanted to hear you explain it all. How many users have you got at the moment? You're still in beta, but it's like 600 or something?
Yeah. So let me have a look. So it's 629.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's 629.
So yeah,
with private beta, we haven't really marketed anything yet. We've got 629 users. And yeah. So it's like what the hell?
Well, people can see the URL up there on your screen, so we don't have to tell them that. But when is it going to be open to the public?
So
to everyone, that is.
Yeah. We're thinking Q4 of this year to open it up. We'll probably still keep it in, we'll just call it public beta. There's still some other things that we need to iron out because interestingly, right, we're dealing with money, right, with this type of platform. And because we're dealing with Bitcoin, there are some other interesting financial things that came up in terms of what we need to ensure we take care of as we're building. This is why it's actually really imperative for us that that the wallet providers, hint, get this multi-sig escrow stuff for us, because we don't necessarily want to be the custodians, right, of these things. Now, there are solutions that exist that we could do, but we just felt like there were too much of it provided too much of a poor experience for users. So for now, you'll notice too that we have a Stripe options for people. So although you can pay in BSV, there's also the ability when you're staking to actually do your normal credit card and what have you. So we've set it up for both because our users are not all BSVers.
I see. Yeah, I did notice also that you had the funds denominated in Duros.
Yes. So shout out to Handcash. Look, we tried it.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's working that great though, to be honest, because even when you're thinking about like when you get to like some of the micro actions, right, like sponsoring or tipping or any of these sort of things, like I find even for myself, I still think in dollars, fiat currency, and this is the problem with Bitcoin in general, like why it's being difficult. However, if we say tokenize, right, and say we just thought of a normal gaming system, right, where they have like Fortnite V-Bucks, and we were thinking about either having merit points or honor points, right, where it could easily tokenize and then Bitcoin's everything underneath.
Yeah,
this could work.
Don't talk to me about V-Bucks. My son makes me buy those things all the time. I'm tired of it.
But never, man, same thing all the time. Like, what do you want for your birthday? V-Bucks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alrighty, George. That's fantastic. And you know what I'm going to do? As soon as we finish this, I'm going to get up and I'm going to think of a commitment that I can make, and I'm going to say this on video now, so that when this video comes out, if I haven't made a commitment, people can hold me to it. Because I said it in public.
and I forgot to put there as well. When you make a commitment, people can sponsor your commitment, so you actually have more money added to your pot.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Right. So if you complete it, you actually get more back.
Fantastic. All right, my mind is racing already, and I'm drawing a blank because I'm already starting to think about what I can post there. So.
Excellent.
All right, George. Thank you very much for coming on, telling us all about that. Go to honā.io and sign up.
Yep.
Even if you can't get into the beta straight away, put yourself on the list because you will get to the top of that list in a fairly short time, I'd say.
Exactly.
Great. Thanks, George.
Thanks, John.